Let's do this. Let's do the damn thing. You're listening to How to Get Away with Shakespeare with Jane Fox and Gabriel Vega. Starting now. What did you say? You sound like a 3-year-old man?
A 3-year-old grown man. Because I have a low voice, but also a lisp, and I sound a little bit like a child. But I have a very low voice for a woman.
Well, okay.
That's the story. I sound like a 3-year-old grown man.
Wow. That's quite the story, Jane.
You asked me to tell you what I said.
Well, tell us if she sounds like a 3-year-old grown man, please. How to Get Away with Shakespeare at gmail.com.
I'm starting that as a hashtag. Hashtag 3-year-old grown man.
Yeah, 3-year-old grown man. That's our hashtag. Anyway, we're back, dear listeners. Yeah, we took a little break.
We were away.
Yeah. And now we're back for the last 2 episodes of season 1. We didn't want to leave you hanging, not tell you that we took a break and like you thinking that we wouldn't come back ever.
We won't.
We probably won't. No. So we don't know when season 2 will start, but we wanted to end it right now.
On a high note.
On a high note.
A double high note.
Hopefully a high note.
One of those little musical notes that's connected to another musical note, if you know what I'm talking about. It's a double high note.
Okay. And yeah, so these are the last 2 episodes of season 2. It's a 2-parter. We'll tell you what the episode's about in a second. But yeah, we've been busy. Jane's been working a lot. I've been writing a novel, and we've waited to graduate for school.
Still waiting.
Because our school's on strike, if you didn't know. But anyway, we don't have to get into that. We're here for a show.
We're here for Shakespeare.
Yeah, we're here for Shakespeare. We've got so many movies and TV shows left for upcoming seasons, so it's not like we don't have anything left to say.
No, I mean, yeah, you guys know there's Shakespeare everywhere.
So, yeah, let us know what you want for season 2 specifically. We'd love to hear your ideas. So, what are we talking about today, Jane?
Today we're talking about the world of Marvel superhero movies.
Marvel's cinematic universe. And we're talking about Thor.
And Black Panther. And now you might be thinking, this is the whitest thing in the world. Analyzing Black Panther from a Shakespeare perspective. And you're right. We are the whitest people in the world.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that, but okay, thank you for bringing that up. I'm sure now they think we're white.
That's what James said when I told him we were doing an episode on Black Panther. He said, that's the whitest thing ever.
Oh my god. Wow. No. I didn't see it that way. Now that you've said it, they're going to think we're really white. But
well,
I'm sure
we're both
they
white
didn't
people.
think that. Okay. Anyway. So we're doing the whitest episode ever. Anyway.
The Thor part is fine. The Iceland people,
anyway,
the Scandinavians are
we
white.
chose Thor and Black Panther because they had a great amount of Shakespeare on them. And especially Thor and Black Panther together because they're really, really similar once you look at them like from a deep level.
They're similar in every way except quality, I would say.
Yeah.
One is much better than the other.
Wow. Okay, that's to be clear. Jane doesn't like Thor, the movie. I find it fine, and that's going to be the debate for today.
Okay, but also, let me be clear. I loved Thor Ragnarok, the third movie, and I love the mythology of Thor and Loki, all the Norse mythology. I just don't like these first two films.
Let me be clear. I don't like Thor: The Dark World, but it's not my favorite. Thor is not my favorite MCU movie. It's not my favorite movie of all time. Not at all. But I find it fine compared to a movie like Ant-Man, which I dislike completely. Yeah.
See, but I love the premise of Ant-Man. I've never seen the actual movie because I've heard it was bad, and I don't waste my time on bad movies. Hence why I fell asleep while watching Thor twice. But I find the premise of Ant-Man, where he can shrink himself and then grow large, very interesting.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know.
There's nothing deeper than that, I think.
And it's over the top, and like the acting is really bad. Anyway, you might disagree with me on that, dear listeners, but I just don't find Ant-Man that great for me. Anyway, Thor is fine with me. It's a fine movie. It's not the best movie, obviously, but it's better than Ant-Man when you look at the acting. It's better than a lot of Marvel movies, especially the recent ones that are the acting is over the top, and sometimes Infinity War is not like that.
Which I haven't seen.
But yeah, especially those early Marvel movies, they did a good job with the acting. It's just the only critique I have of Thor is it's too serious. It's way too serious compared to Ragnarok, compared to the other thing they did with Thor in the later years. But I guess you need that seriousness to understand the comedic films after.
Here's the thing, like, looking at the structure of Thor, it seems like it should be a good movie. And I feel like maybe the structure was taken from like a Shakespearean play, because it makes sense in like the way that the acts happen. And a lot of the stuff seems like it should be good. And it's not that even, like, I wouldn't say the acting is bad. It's just like the overall movie, like the actual production, that's sort of lackluster.
Tom Hiddleston is wonderful in that movie. You don't like him?
No. I like Tom Hiddleston, but I am extremely creeped out by the weird, like, fan base surrounding him, where people were like in love with him. And
I understand it completely.
But they wanted him, like, one time he said, like, bow down. They were all like bowing down to him and like.
Yeah, that was like Comic-Con.
Yeah, they were.
He
like,
was dressed as Loki.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, that's Comic-Con.
Yeah. There's a problem in the world.
No, he was playing a character.
I know.
So that's fine. Anyway, we will disagree all podcasts on this.
I've seen people say things about him that would turn your blood cold.
Okay. Like what?
Just like random people sharing with the whole world, like, oh, I wish Tom Hiddleston would blank my blank and blank my blank. And it's like, you don't.
Yeah. It's the same kind of fan base that Benedict Cumberbatch has.
Exactly. And it was around the same time.
And I'm a part of that fan base.
Benedict Cumberbatch is fantastic. His voice is the main thing. But
I think he's my favorite actor.
It became this huge thing. He's a very good actor, but
he's great.
It became this thing where, like, if you didn't like him, you were an outcast.
And he's a vegan,
that is a problem.
Too.
I didn't know he was vegan.
Yeah, he's a vegan. In the Infinity War interview, the press tour, he kept saying, "Oh, I'm a vegan. I don't eat that. I don't eat that."
Is he vegan or is he plant-based?
No, he's vegan. He kept using the word vegan.
Because he wasn't vegan a couple years ago.
Yeah, I know. Sure. But now he's vegan. Especially, and apparently a lot of the Avengers people are now vegan. I know that Chris Hemsworth, speaking of Thor, went on a vegan diet for Infinity War and tried it, and it worked perfectly. Anyway, we're not here to talk about vegan diets, but
it's related.
We were talking about Benedict Cumberbatch and before that Tom Hiddleston. So,
you know, Tom Hiddleston's like 6'3".
Yeah.
But he doesn't look like it.
Yeah,
he
he's
looks
tall.
like, but he looks like he has normal proportions if you see him by himself, and then he's like standing next to someone. And you're like, what the hell?
Anyway, and speaking of How to Get Away with Shakespeare.
Nice transition.
That was not a good transition. But I wanted to talk about something else. And I was like, oh, do I make this transition or not? Anyway, speaking of Thor, Anthony Hopkins. And we were talking about Westworld on
Not
this show.
Not
too long ago. Yeah, and Anthony Hopkins was there. And I watched Thor also this morning. And the two characters, Odin and Ford, are so similar. He played them so similarly, which is funny, because he's like also expositional in that movie, and this is expositional in Westworld too.
And he is sort of like the father of the industry.
Yeah,
or
and he's
of
also
the
a
two boys.
god.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is interesting. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Okay, guys. So before we go any deeper. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Shakespeare. Over 180 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. For you, the listeners of the How to Get Away with Shakespeare podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. How kind of them! Audible is so great.
They are good. Now, have you been listening to any new books recently?
Oh, thank you for asking. That wasn't planned at all. But yes, I have. Actually, I wanted to recommend Big Little Lies, which I know a lot of people know as a TV show. But it was a book first. It was a book. It was a book first. And to be fair, I want you to read the book. And I want you to tell me. Email me at howtogetawaywithshakespeare@gmail.com. If you think Big Little Lies, the book, is better than the TV show, or is the TV show better than the book? Because they added a lot in the TV show, which I think is a lot better than the book. Especially with Celeste's character. So, email me for that. Anyway, I read that on Audible with the great reader by the name of Carolyn Lee. She's quirky, she's funny, she makes different voices, similar to Jim Dale. Because I came off of Harry Potter, reading Harry Potter, the 5th book, and it was incredibly long. And I enjoyed it, but I needed a break. And then I thought, I'm going to start a book on Audible, and there's going to be a different voice, not Jim Dale, reading the book. I don't know how I feel about that. And then I started listening to Big Little Lies, and Carolyn Lee is just fantastic.
But does she roll her R's the same way Jim Dale was? He always says Helly instead of Harry.
She's from Australia, so it's different. But also the book is set in Australia, which is...
I didn't know that.
Which is good. Yeah, that's what they changed also about the show. They put it in California.
Of course they do. Hollywood, am I right?
But they did a great job. I'm sorry. Just watch the show. They did a super great job with it. Except I still don't believe that Nicole Kidman as a great American accent. But
I hate Nicole Kidman. I don't want
she's great in Big Little Lies. Anyway, so absolutely check those out with Audible. Check Big Little Lies. I meant those because Carolyn Lee read all Ian Moriarty's book. And you should check all of those out. Ian Moriarty is a fantastic author. I didn't know her before that.
I still don't know her.
Yeah, she's great. She's absolutely great. And she's a great writer. She taught me reading that book taught me a lot about writing and point of views and stuff.
Taught you a lot?
Yeah, it taught me a lot. She taught me a lot.
You said she taught you a lot.
She taught me a lot. Yeah. And screw you. She taught me a lot. Okay? So, yeah, absolutely check her out on Audible. And she taught me a lot, again. So, what are you reading right now, Jane?
To be honest, I'm listening to the first Harry Potter again.
Yeah, she's getting ready for trivia.
I'm preparing for trivia, but also I actually bought my boyfriend an audiobook because he has to read Haruki Murakami's Norwegian Wood, which was a book that I loved reading in book form. But he's actually listening to it on audiobook because he finds it much easier to concentrate when he's doing like 5 things at once. So he'll like be playing a game and like typing and going on Wikipedia, but he's listening to the whole story. And that's just the way like he thinks. So he's listening to that, and it's really well done, and it's a really good book. So you should definitely check out Norwegian Wood.
But surely you've listened to something other than Harry Potter, because we've been on break for a month. So what have you been reading before Harry Potter?
I finally finished the one I've been listening to in a while, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. And I'm also listening...
Oh, is that the Broadway musical?
It was a book first.
No, but that's what I'm looking at.
Actually,
that's that.
One of my first memories of driving in the car is actually my dad had the audiobook of Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime and was listening to it. And I remember being so confused at the time. This was like 2004. So I was like 6 years old, 7 years old. And then it was weird because I went back and listened to it and I was like, oh yeah. So that's what was happening, that my tiny 7-year-old brain couldn't work out. And he used to listen to it like while we went on road trips. So that's my story.
Cool story, Jane. Thank you for sharing.
I think it was an interesting story.
No, it was interesting and emotional. You made me cry. So
I could make you cry.
No, you can not.
Yes, I could.
Okay, so those are our recommendations for the week. So to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Shakespeare. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Shakespeare for your free audiobook. Thank you again to Audible for sponsoring this podcast. Now, back to the show. So, shall we delve into this?
Let's dig in.
So let's just be clear. We're talking about not the third movie, Thor Ragnarok, not the second movie, Thor the Dark World, which I dislike very, very much. We're talking about Thor, the first movie, the movie that started it all.
Directed by Kenneth Branagh, who you might know as Gilderoy Lockhart in Harry Potter, or as in every single Shakespeare movie or directing it ever.
Yeah, he directed a lot of movie. Or as Kenneth Branagh, like most of us say his name. But
how did I say it?
You said Branagh. You said Branagh or something.
Branagh. Kenneth Branagh.
Kenneth Branagh.
I don't think it's Branagh.
It's Branagh.
I don't think it is. I'm sure everyone says it differently.
Anyway, oh yeah, we've looked it up, and it's Branagh. No, the lady actually said it's Branagh, but I'm gonna say Branagh because I like that.
I'm not gonna argue with you.
Anyway,
you're French, so.
Wow. Okay. Anyway, he's the Shakespeare expert. Not an expert. He's the director of many, many, many Shakespeare movies.
I'm sure he's read a lot of them. So in some
that's
ways
all he does,
probably,
basically.
Yeah. Well, that and destroy things that people love.
The Orient Express.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about. Good. You know, I am a huge fan of Poirot. I think I've read most of the books. And he comes in with that evil mustache. I genuinely, in the theater watching that, I could not control myself. I was like wriggling in my seat with rage.
And he cast himself as Hercule Poirot. The
Right.
best detective in the world.
The whole thing about Poirot is he's supposed to be short and fat and bald and egg-shaped.
Yeah.
And
like Kenneth Branagh.
Any of those things. David Suchet is the only Poirot who deserves to be alive.
Anyway, you should have cast him. Okay.
Yes. Anyway, back to Shakespeare.
We'll have a lot of debates today. But I didn't mind Murder of the Orient Express. I thought it was 2 stars at least.
It got bad reviews, and I was very happy about it.
2 stars out of 5 at least, which is what the hell on my scale. But
good.
So yeah, Kenneth Branagh directed it. He's a huge Shakespeare director, like we said. Plus, it was confirmed by him and Chris Hemsworth that the first 2 films were Shakespearean. And that's what they tried to do in the third film with Taika Waititi. They tried to steer away from that Shakespearean form and make something new. But I would argue that it's still Shakespearean very much when you think about the green world, and a lot of things are similar to the first two movies. But it's the best Thor movie. Let's be clear. Thor Ragnarok is the best Thor movie. And it's funny as hell.
And it's just actually entertaining to watch. Like, I do not fall asleep during movies ever. And twice now, Thor has put me to sleep. So I'll leave that to you to figure out what that means about it.
It was the time that they cut that stupid blonde hair, because it does not look good. I was watching this morning Thor, and it does not look good on
I love the long hair.
No,
Excuse you.
It does not look good on him. I like his new look. Anyway, so let's talk about Shakespeare and Thor, since we'll be arguing all podcasts otherwise.
We'll continue.
So what do you want to start with? What did you see that was Shakespearean at first?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like the whole structure is Shakespearean. Like, when you go back and think about the way that things proceeded, like, okay, so Thor is about to become king, and then right when he's about to take over as king, this whole thing happens with the frost giants, and he gets kicked out, and then, you know, he goes to a different world. A couple of things happen there, the worst part of the movie, and then he ends up coming back. He has to sort of defend the right to be on the throne against Loki.
Oh yeah, totally. The frost giant scene is totally the worst part of the movie, especially the CGI in that movie. That is what struck me. Now the CGI in the MCU is fine. It's great in Infinity War if you have not seen it, but in the first few years, oh my god, especially with Thor. Did you see Asgard in the first when they introduced it? It looks like a digital city, which you don't see now. If you look at Thor Ragnarok, it does not look like a digital city. Yes, of course, we know it's a digital city, but it looks kind of better than this one.
And that was sort of a big thing at the time. Like, when did this movie come out? Like,
It's after 2008. So
yeah, I was gonna say sometime in the 2010s.
Yeah, 2011, I think.
Perfect. Yeah, a lot of the movies around then were just like, we'll make everything CGI and it'll be perfect. We'll make all the characters fight each other only using CGI. And now it's much more like, we'll actually have the characters fight each other, and then we'll add a little bit of CGI to make it look good.
Yeah, that did Avatar. Was Avatar released into 2010?
Oh,
I think so. That's why. So that's why.
I feel like Avatar came out 10 years ago, didn't it?
2009, sorry.
Yeah.
It came out in 2009. And then every single movie after that, up to a point, decided to put CGI everywhere.
But Avatar did it well, for the most part.
But they all wanted that technology then. And it took a long time to do it well.
You know what I loved about Deadpool? The joke, okay, this is not a spoiler. The joke where he's like, and now for a fight between two characters that's entirely CGI. Because it's the two characters who are like mostly CGI, but it's done well. Like, it still was an interesting fight. Yeah.
Juggernaut, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and go see that. Juggernaut is one of my favorite X-Men character ever.
Shakespeare. William Shakespeare, who lives in my house, got so excited when that happened. He was like, "Is that Juggernaut? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god." In the theater, and I was like, "Shut your mouth. We're watching a movie, and not a mouth of any particular adjective kind."
Okay, I'm going to start with something I saw right away, which is, it's pretty much, Loki's pretty much a Iago figure, a mischievous character that you see a lot in Shakespeare. Especially when you search for Shakespeare and Thor, now the movie actually becomes clearer because you understand things better. Especially when Loki is like, wow, the frost giant just invaded our kingdom. You know, you won't go to Jotunheim, will you? And then he's suggesting to Thor to go to Jotunheim.
Right.
And he knows, Loki knows that he's going to go. Because his old plan is so that Thor is exiled and that his father is in a coma. And Loki takes over. And then the Fraulein come. And then, Loki is the hero. And yeah, he wants to make his father proud. But his old plan, he thinks like 20 steps ahead, like Iago a lot,
right?
Like that. Iago knows that by telling Othello that by suggesting to Othello, just like Loki's suggesting to Thor, by suggesting to Othello that his wife is sleeping with another man, he knows that Othello's going to go mad. He's going to try to kill his wife. He's going to try to kill the other man, and Othello, in the end, will either die or get exiled or banished or whatever. His whole plan, Iago, is to get rid of Othello. He doesn't like him for his color. He doesn't like him for appointing Cassio as the captain of the army. So his whole plan is to get rid of Othello too, which is very similar to that situation.
Interestingly, I mean, you said that Loki is Iago, but I do wonder, I mean, maybe Iago is Loki, because of course the Norse mythology predates
right
all of that. But I mean, of course, the Loki in this movie would be based on Iago, who could be based on older Norse mythology. So I do wonder if that connection is there between older Norse mythology, because we know that Shakespeare pulled from a lot of English history books, and a lot of mythology, like Greek mythology, but I don't know if work has been done looking at, whether Shakespeare ever looked at Norse mythology. Maybe.
That's interesting to think about, actually. I didn't think about that. The Norse mythology came before. Yeah, that's cool. Shakespeare perhaps thought of Loki, the god of mischief, the trickster, when he was writing Iago.
And interestingly, a lot of Loki stuff that he gets up to, we all know what I'm talking about with the horse, is all like very sexual. He's sort of like the deviant. And I mean, Iago sort of goes about things very sexually, framing Desdemona for an affair. All of that. It's, he could have gotten Othello in another way. He could have gotten in trouble for some kind of military failure. Like he could have, made something happen with the non-existent Turks. All of that,
Yeah.
But it had to be
it's just
sexual.
more evil.
Yeah.
It's just more evil, and it just makes a better play.
It does.
We wouldn't have a play if that would have happened.
It just, I mean, it might have been interesting, but I don't think it would be as compelling as, she's defending her virtue in the patriarchal society.
Yeah.
And ultimately, she dies defending it.
But, of course, Kenneth Branagh thought of Iago. He thought of Shakespeare when I was like creating Loki. No, he didn't create Loki. Of course, I shouldn't say that, actually. Kenneth Branagh has nothing to do with the creation of Loki and deciding if Loki was going to be a part of the story, because he was already in the Thor comics. But what he thought about, I'm sure, is the way he was going to use Loki, which was creating a story that was really close to Othello, and using it in the same way, thinking like 20 steps ahead, like Iago does, and playing with people. Like Loki in the movie, it seems like he's genuine, just like Iago is acting genuine, which is ironic because Iago is lying, and then when you see Loki, you don't know at first he's lying.
And interestingly, I mean, Iago is sort of famous for that speech where he says, I am not what I am, like questioning his very identity. What do you base my identity on? The words that I say, my actions. And Loki, of course, has a crisis of identity in the movie with his parentage.
Yeah. And that was so weird, though, his parentage. Let's talk about this for a second. He turns blue in that movie. Why the hell didn't they use that in all the other movies?
He's just blue for a second, then he goes back.
We get it. You want to tell his origin story in a movie and then be done with it. But don't stop there if you're going to make him blue for one movie. Because I didn't see that in Thor: The Dark World. I didn't see that in The Avengers. I didn't see that anywhere else.
Petition for Loki in the next Thor movie to say, I just blew myself.
I'm sorry, but go see Avengers Infinity War.
Well, yeah, I okay.
So, what next? What did you see that was Shakespearean? So, a mischievous character, a structure, and what next?
I actually think I was sort of looking at Thor as very much a Prince Henry from Henry IV character. Because he sort of has that thing where he's going to be reigning soon, and everyone keeps reminding him that he's going to be king. But he isn't really ready. Now, Thor thinks he is ready in the beginning, and he's preparing for it, but Prince Henry is sort of in that age where, he's making friends with all the corrupt people like Falstaff. He's hanging out in the tavern, and he sort of knows that he isn't ready to rule yet. And then in both, sort of the structure of events happens that forces him to become ready to rule. And they sort of have to change their whole attitude and their whole manner of being. That's
really interesting. I didn't look at it that way. The way I looked at it was by looking at the green world versus the court world. In the green world, usually the characters learn something, or there is a change, or and in the case of Thor, I feel like in the beginning he's very, very selfish, and then by the end he learns to be selfless. He learns because he wants to sacrifice himself at the end for Jane, for all of the other human characters and all humanity, basically.
Right.
And he does that in the green world, which is interesting. And the green world, let's be clear, I think, is Earth, because he's exiled Earth. And the green world, he doesn't have powers. He doesn't have anything. But he learns to be essentially a hero without his powers, which is right. Why I think it's a fine movie, because that's actually interesting. And at the time, it was new when they made that movie. It was a new thing. We hadn't seen that before, which I think was interesting.
It's a shame that they did it so badly. No, I agree, though. It could be interesting because, we're seeing someone who is sort of rendered human for a time, He doesn't have his hammer. He doesn't have Mjolnir. He doesn't have his powers. He can't call down lightning. He just has to be himself.
He can't go back
for
home.
A while. Yeah.
Which is interesting. So I think the green world teaches Thor to be selfless and caring and willing to sacrifice himself for others, which makes him worthy for the throne, ultimately.
And worthy of wielding the hammer.
He only reaches the throne in the third movie. Spoiler alert. But, he still becomes more worthy than he was at the beginning. He was kind of a douchebag in the beginning. He was kind of a selfish prick. And I didn't like him at all in those first 10 to 20 minutes of the movie. I thought, oh, that's why Jane thinks it's a bad movie, because...
No.
No, but that's what I was thinking at first. And I was like, this is... First, Thor is really serious, because after watching Thor Ragnarok, I didn't see Thor in the same light. And he's kind of a prick. And he's... I don't know. I didn't like him in those 20 minutes. And then as the movie evolved, as the movie progressed, I was like, oh, that's what they were doing. They were trying to make him selfless and make him care for others and that's what, and they did it with the green world, which is very Shakespearean, and which is amazing.
And in that way, I mean, if we had Iago, we would expect to see Othello alongside him in the protagonist. But I really don't feel like... I mean, I feel like Thor has the opposite direction of Othello. He's very, either selfish, or Othello is sort of controlled by jealousy at the end, controlled by these sort of bad emotions, and by...
I'm not saying at all that Thor is like Othello.
No, I'm just saying we see the opposite thing that we would expect to see if we had Iago. We would expect to see him paired with an Othello, but we actually don't.
Okay, yeah.
He actually ends up being better by the end, whereas Othello is brought low by Iago.
And as opposed to the relationship between Iago and Othello, first, Iago is the outsider in Thor. The Loki is the outsider. He's the other, as opposed to Thor, like Othello being the other. So yeah, that was different. And they're also brothers. Adoptive brothers, but still brothers. So it's the family dynamics, which is very Shakespearean too.
Gotta love those family dynamics.
Yeah. Plus it's royalty, which is very Shakespearean too.
We're in the court now.
Yeah.
Bitches.
So yeah. And then there's the exile. That's very Shakespearean as well. Someone banishing someone. That reminded me of King Lear.
I was thinking of King Lear just now.
Yeah.
Sort of sent off to the heath, the barren world that is Earth compared to Asgard.
So Odin banishes Thor, which is, I have a fun fact for that. Anthony Hopkins is going to play King Lear in an upcoming movie. They just released a trailer on YouTube. Go watch it. Yeah.
He's such a good fit for that I almost feel like he's been Lear before, but I don't think he has, but he should have been.
Well, in Thor, he's basically Lear.
Yeah, but it's different. Like, I almost went like, hasn't he played that role before? But
yeah. Okay, let's talk about that. So, I saw for the first time, now that I know Shakespeare, that it's pretty much, Odin is pretty much Lear. Because he gets taken advantage of by his children, especially Loki, who's making this plan to, basically, at the beginning, he, just like Regan and the other daughter, I forget her name. Goneril and Regan, they pretty much kiss his ass in the beginning to get his kingdom. Mm-hmm. Just like Loki kisses the ass of his father a little bit. And then he gets it. And he puts his father in a coma.
I thought I thought Odin went into Odin's sleep to recover his power.
Did he though?
I think he did.
I don't think he did. I think
that
was very
isn't that like
Loki,
an Odin thing?
A Loki trick. Yeah.
Doesn't Odin do that throughout Norse mythology? Like
I don't know. Maybe. But I thought Loki did that. But yeah, I could be wrong because I don't know Norse mythology.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like the main difference there is that, I mean, I guess it depends on that one point. Like, I feel like Odin is a very strong character in this. It's more the fact that he isn't present. He's asleep or away. But if he was there, I mean, he kicks Thor out of Asgard, like, he isn't lowered like King Lear is on the heath alone. So, I mean, I guess we could say it's only emotionally that he is sort of in that lower state.
Yeah, and I also think of him as Lear, especially when Lear gets close to Cordelia after exiling her. And I feel like Odin gets closer to Thor than ever after he exiles him. This gets them closer because Loki, just like Regan and Goneril, turn on their father, and Loki turns on his father, and that makes Thor and Odin closer. Not only because of Loki's betrayal, but because Thor is a better guy too.
Interesting. We could also say that Thor becomes very Cordelia-like because Of course, it's Cordelia's refusal to speak, her silence that is powerful in the beginning, that gets her exiled, but is also, the fact that she's not willing to just sort of pay lip service to her father. And Thor ultimately does the same thing that she does with her actions rather than her words. He ultimately proves that he is willing to sacrifice himself, and he acts rather than just saying, oh, father, you're great.
Yeah. He gets the throne basically in a good, worthy way.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to Loki, who just does it behind Odin's back. So Loki knows that he will never get the throne. So, just like Regan and Goneril, he kind of kisses his father's ass, and then does it behind his back, and just get the throne by himself. Yeah, just doing.
But look where it got you, Loki.
Things. Well, he's still in the later movie. He still gets what he wants.
Yeah, but he's paired with Goneril, whose name sounds like gonorrhea. So, take that, Loki.
Oh well. Okay. Before we end,
also.
Yeah.
Eyeballs.
Explain.
People who lose their eyeballs.
Oh yeah.
You know I like to talk about eyeballs.
Yeah.
That is a major plot point in King Lear. Gloucester loses his eye for supporting the king at Regan's hand, I think. Regan or Goneril. They're the same. And, I mean, not in this movie, but in the third movie.
Odin loses an eye in this movie too.
Oh, does he lose it in this movie?
Yeah, you see when he fights a Bifrost at the beginning.
Oh, great. Well, I was thinking.
And then
that's in the before thing, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, we see Thor lose an eye.
Yeah.
Which hopefully they keep gone. Hopefully they're not like, oh, magic.
Watch Avenger Infinity War. Spoiler alert. No, it's actually funny the way they do it, it's actually clever. So it's just.
I like lasting consequences. Your actions.
No, it's lasting.
Your actions have consequences.
No, it's lasting. It's lasting. It's not his real eye that grows back. It's something else. Anyway, people lose their eyes. Yeah, dismemberment. So yeah. Before we move on to the second part of our show, which is Black Panther, I wanted to touch about something that I saw. Jane and Thor. What is this love? Is this a Shakespearean love? Is this... Because I was like, is this... This is not Romeo and Juliet. It's similar, though, because two worlds, two lovers from two worlds loving each other. And they can be together because their two worlds don't connect, which was an interesting metaphor.
It's sort of like if The Tempest was a tragedy and no one was happy, then that would essentially be the first Thor movie.
I like way better Thor and Lady Sif together. I feel like they go super well together compared to Jane and Thor. And they never did end up together because the actress that plays Lady Sif's got her own show now, so they can't do it. Or they just simply decided not to explore the romance, which they do a lot in the MCU. Like Gwyneth Paltrow was gone for a while from Tony Stark. There's a lot of problem with romances in the MCU. They don't like to explore those.
I mean, it's difficult to date a god or a superhero or a supervillain, you know?
Look at Spider-Man. He doesn't end up with the girl in the end, in the Spider-Man Homecoming. Mm-hmm. Captain America, he was supposed to date Agent whatever her name is, and he never ends up with her. Agent Carter. But I wasn't talking about Agent Carter. I was talking about the other agent that works for S.H.I.E.L.D., who is played by Emily Van Camp. He never ends up with her.
That's the younger Carter.
Oh yeah, Carter. That's why I was mixed up. Carter. So you never the superheroes, weirdly enough, never end up with their loved ones.
Good. I ain't here for a dang romance.
No, but it's interesting. I like some exploration of that sometime. They explored it in Iron Man, and then they cut it off.
Good. I can't say enough how much.
But she's still with him. watch Avengers
Why
Infinity War.
is she with him?
Watch Avengers.
Does she die? Because that's the
No.
only reason I'll watch it.
No. Anyway, so you're saying that the romance in this particular film is similar to The Tempest? Is this a Romeo and Juliet? Is this something...
Only if the Bifrost is the balcony.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can see you from my world.
But they don't commit suicide for each other.
I mean, at the same time, is being apart from someone you love not an act of killing yourself?
It's interesting. Anyway, that's not the best Shakespearean point that we've come up with, but I was just interested in their relationship. If we've seen that in Shakespeare, if that was something from Shakespeare that they took, yeah.
I mean, it is interesting because she is originally... I mean, I guess we could see, like, the Midgardians and Asgardians as two different families or factions. I mean, I'm just thinking we can sort of think about the Midgardians and Asgardians as sort of warring families or factions. Like, they're separate. They don't get along. Hence why if you're exiled to that country, you know it's not exactly the place where they're like, oh, hey, the Asgardians, you know? But I don't think it's Romeo and Juliet because it's just a different story.
Yeah. Anyway, Thor is very Shakespeare. If you look at the second movie, also they said that it was Shakespeare. I didn't analyze it. Did you? Did you analyze it in terms of Shakespeare ever?
The second movie?
For the Dark World?
No.
Okay. So, I don't think we'll look at it. But keep in mind that it was also a movie that they tried to get away with Shakespeare too. Maybe we'll do that if we have nothing left in later seasons, which will be impossible because we have a lot left to discuss. But keep in mind that it's very Shakespeare too. So yeah, thanks Kenneth Branagh for giving us an episode.
I will never thank Kenneth Branagh and his tiny lips for anything.
It's Kenneth Branagh.
Kenneth Branagh.
It's Kenneth Branagh.
And his tiny lips for
Branagh.
anything.
It's Kenneth Branagh.
You can say it either way. He doesn't give a shit. He probably says it 8 different ways.
Oh.
Thanks, Kenneth Branagh. Not being sarcastic at all.
She loves Thor. She loves the movie.
I liked Kenneth Branagh in Henry IV.
Harry Potter? Do you like him in that?
Oh yeah, he was the perfect Gilderoy Lockhart.
Yeah.
I mean.
So tune in to episode 10 to get this, the part 2 of this season 1 finale, not the series finale. Season 1 finale. I'm Gabriel Vega.
I'm Jane.
And you can follow us on Twitter at Jane the Fox and at Vega Gabe, or How to Get Away with Shakespeare on Instagram, or simply just write us an email. It's better like that. We read those emails. That's the place you want to contact us. So it's howtogetaway with Shakespeare@gmail.com. Tune in to episode 10 for Black Panther, and perhaps more of Thor if we think about something else. All right, bye.
If you liked this podcast and want more, go on iTunes and search for How to Get Away with Shakespeare. We're also on SoundCloud, Spreaker.com, and YouTube. Again, thank you very much for listening.